Hi guys, Marcus Kakin here from BlindsideFootball.com. Here to tell you a little bit about our premium DFS content we're rolling out this year. We got a lot of great stuff for you, including premium articles, weekly game breakdowns where we have little write-ups on every player you may be considering for your DFS team that week. Weekly projections with salary analysis from FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. And don't forget about our advanced statistics. We got strength of schedule statistics, defense versus position statistics that tell you things as in-depth as how many receptions are allowed to the running back two on an opposing team, and obviously red zone statistics as well. Probably one of the best things, though, about our package is it's totally free if you're not winning money. That's right, guys. If you don't win money in your 50-50s, in your cash games, in your head-to-head matchups, just let us know and we'll refund you back that portion of your subscription. And finally, guys, we're going to be giving away prizes from time to time. You sign up now with us before the beginning of the season, and we're going to be giving away a Jamal Charles signed football to one lucky subscription member. But we didn't want to stop there. We want to have 2 lucky subscription members. So in addition to the Jamal Charles signed football, we are also giving away a grand prize of an AJ Green signed Bengals jersey. That's right, guys. Sign up with us today. Just $4.99 a week, $14.99 a month, or the best value, $39.99 for the year, and get all this content. Plus, we'll refund you back if you're not winning. And hey, great swag like this, guys. So sign up today, and let's start winning money together.
And now, the Blindside Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Marcus Katkin and Matt Dugal.
All right, guys, we're back for part 2 of the Tight End podcast. Our first, I think our first ever two for days. Buy one, get one.
The fatigue is setting in as clearly.
You call it fatigue, I call it alcohol. It's fine. So, guys, Rob Gronkowski, obviously everybody's consensus number 1. How early is too early for Gronk? What say you?
Give me some names.
I gotta throw names out, really. So let's put it this way. The top 5 running backs are off the board. Antonio Brown, you're taking ahead of him. Matt Forte, you're taking ahead of him. I'm not a Forte guy this year, but yeah. Des Bryant, you are. Demarius, I would say you are. C.J. Anderson?
No.
I'm Gronk over C.J. Anderson. I don't like C.J.
I'm not so
Anderson.
high on it. I don't think it's clear cut. I can't believe where he's being picked.
Yeah.
I would never have him, period, this year.
LaShawn McCoy or Gronk?
Or I would,
Gronk.
LaShawn for me.
Yeah, McCoy for me too.
Yep.
Really? You guys like McCoy?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that in the running back podcast. So earmark that one. Gronk or ODB?
ODB, yeah, you know me.
And that's where
I hate Beckham.
I'm Gronk there.
Yeah.
I feel like once you start talking this range, it's all personal preference, but we're in that late
I think that's how drafts work. It's all personal preference to begin with.
Well, yeah.
I think everything in life is actually based on personal preference.
Everything?
Everything. Shoes I put on today because I like them. I'm married to my wife because I like her. Personal preference.
There you go.
I don't have personal preference over my
You don't
pal.
like your wife?
No. I was going to say, I don't think everything in life is personal preference, but yeah. So, here, a couple running backs. DeMarco Murray, Jeremy Hill, or Gronk?
Gronk. Over both.
Gronk over both for me.
Yep.
Julio, Calvin Johnson. Those ones is where it gets really close for me.
Calvin's my number 1 this year. We are wide receivers, yeah, but
2013 all over
again. So both of them for me, still, Gronk and Julio for me is almost like the tipping point. Give me 4 more weeks, and unfortunately I don't have that long, so that would not be good. Give me a little more time.
Those two. That's where it started to get hairy for me. I don't know. See, I still haven't decided this year if going stud tight end is the way to go or streaming in. I'm a big streaming guy. Last year, you guys know me. I was a big Dwayne Allen guy.
might be the way I go again this year.
I think that's more what I was talking about personal preference. Obviously, personal preference, you're choosing between players here. But I think it's more about the personal preference of the strategies. If you can feel comfortable taking a tight end and you believe in the positional value over the value of the player in perspective of everything, then I think Gronk makes sense for you in the late first. If not, I think both of you are looking at him probably mid-second.
Rob, I agree. As far as the positional value, a bunch of those wide receivers you just named
obviously
are splitting hairs. When it comes to Gronk, we could literally end the podcast, talk about him, and just get, after that, kind of, take your pick. But he is far and away, I think, above the rest of the group. So it definitely, I see your point.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is where it makes a big difference for me. But the problem is you don't know the answer to this when you would have to pick Gronk. Would you rather have Gronk at, say, the 12th pick overall, or Jimmy Graham in the middle of the third? For me, it's Jimmy Graham in the middle of the third. It's not even close. I love Jimmy Graham. I think middle of the third is crazy for him. I don't think there's going to be a ton of difference with him moving to Seattle. I think it's going to be down from his New Orleans days. But if I had the 12th pick and you told me I could get somehow Jimmy Graham in the third round, I would take that.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you don't know that. That's the only problem.
There's so many people I like that I could choose at 12 versus round 3. It's a different
But the
story
thing there is you don't know if he'll make it to the middle. He has in a few drafts. In a few drafts I've been in, he's made it to the middle of round 3, and I've taken him every time. You just don't know that, and that's what's kind of scary. So
I can tell you I have not picked Jimmy Graham in any of the mocks I've done this year. I keep letting him go. So it's more of me being scared about the unknown because he's in a new place. But I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you.
You talked about in our quarterback podcast how you thought he would do well.
I know. I like I said, I don't disagree with you. It's just I feel there's other guys that I could be a little bit more confident in. But like you said, I don't taking him in the mid-third, what you said, 12 or mid-third, I would rather Jimmy in mid-third.
I'd rather mid-third. Rob?
I'm thinking I'd rather take Gronk in the first, especially when you're talking about the 12, because then you're at least locking up another stud and getting a value mid-third. And I think the difference between Gronk and...
Let's just be straight real quick. If you obviously have the 12th pick, you don't have a mid-third pick. We all know that. I'm just saying.
Right. You're talking relative.
Relative.
Yeah. Well, and I see it, if you're taking Gronk, it's the difference between Gronk and Graham and an RB, a running back or a wideout that you could take at that pick versus the third. I would probably go Gronk running back. And then when you're talking about wideouts late first to mid-third, I think that's a closer differential than
late second.
Gronk
late second to mid-third? Wait.
No, we're talking about Graham to mid-third. Yeah.
Yep.
We're confusing ourselves here. But point is, I think the differential is there that it justifies a first-round pick.
And realistically, we're trying to kill time. We're talking about tight ends. There's very little to talk about, so we got to just talk.
Keep going about Jimmy Graham, guys. Keep going. Just keep talking. No, we can move on. Let's talk about, there's Greg Olsen, there's Travis Kelce. I've heard a lot of people putting Travis Kelce ahead of Greg Olsen. I don't really get that at all.
I would be one of those guys.
It's the hype train again.
Potential versus what you know.
What potential, though? You got Alex Smith as your quarterback. I just...
The potential
I get it.
of
He's a physical freak.
That's...
He's a physical freak. I get that. You can't always look at that and just be like, because of that, he's going to be the number 3 tight end.
What do you mean?
Alex
Smith hates throwing to wide receivers. I talked to him about it last year. He said he doesn't want to do it ever again. At least the stats said so.
He just said line up 4 tight ends for me and I'm good.
Please. Yeah, please don't make me throw the ball, actually, is what he said. But no, it's the potential. The potential is the fact that Travis Kelce is a young man who's a couple years into the league now and improving year to year, and we know what Greg Olsen is, and that's an outstanding player, but I think you know what he is. He's a 1,000-yard at most, 10-touchdown kind of guy, which at best, which is outstanding, but there is the upside that we don't know of Kelce. He's a physical freak. There's no doubt about that.
I will say this. Right now in Fantasy Pros, Greg Olsen is going the 3rd overall tight end, which I think is amazing because I feel like he was a guy that's, undervalued quite a bit. Last year, 1,000-yard season, 6 touchdowns. Travis Kelce, let's just bring up his stats here real quick. Come on, give me some, like Jeopardy music or something, guys. Come on. No, not so much.
I don't.
Last season, 67 receptions.
You can edit that shit out, right?
67 receptions, 862 yards, and 5 touchdowns. So better than I expected for Kelsey. I don't know. I'm just not a Kelsey guy.
It's the upside. That's
Personal
all.
preference? Would you call it personal preference?
Yeah, and I don't think you're making a wrong decision either way. I think I'm going Kelsey myself.
I am too, and I think your
Shooting
Kelsey,
for the moon.
Your Kelsey hate stems from your Alex Smith hate, you know, and Alex Smith, for all of his flaws, his tendencies are short range. You know, he's not bombing balls downfield, which is why I'm not so high on Macklin this year. But I think Kelsey's going to benefit from that, and another year in the league. His situation hasn't changed that much, and that's why I think, it's a great pick in the sense that I don't see a ton of uncertainty in Kelsey minimally meeting his last year.
And there's not a lot of uncertainty in Olsen either. That's why I don't think either one is the wrong choice. But if you're going to tell me that Greg Olsen is going to be the number 1 tight end at the end of the year, I don't think that's even possible. There is a little bit of a chance that Kelsey could do that. That's all. Just because of the
There's a little bit of a chance that Alex Smith throws 15 touchdowns and they all go to Kelsey.
You know my point.
Kelsey right now going in the 5th round, usually on average. Are you taking him in the 5th round? For me, it's a clear no.
I agree.
I would take him there. I think that's good value.
Wow. All right. Next couple guys, Martellus Bennett. I really don't have much I want to talk about Bennett. I don't know. He's right there with Olsen with me, only a little bit, obviously a little bit not as good. That's why he's falling a little bit lower. I can't get excited about him, but I can't draft him where he's going right now.
What are we supposed to do? Like I said, this podcast could be over 5 minutes into it. It's the tight end position. Martellus Bennett is fine.
All right,
none of these guys are going to be game changers.
I got one for you.
We could literally say the same thing about every guy the next 20 of them.
This will kill 5 minutes.
10 of them.
This will kill 5 minutes. Julius Thomas. What are you guys' thoughts on Julius Thomas?
I have no idea.
What?
I love the talent, but he's in Jacksonville.
I will tell you what. Last season, Clay Harbor had some nice games with Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
And they're going to go to a lot of 2 tight end sets, supposedly, with Mercedes Lewis.
I think Thomas is a great value where he's going
too.
now. I mean, granted, he's a slight downgrade at quarterback this year. minor downgrade. But
Just a little bit.
But I think the situation...
It's the downgrade we get when I'm doing podcasts with Rob and then Matt has to join in.
Exactly.
You kind of got to...
Very similar.
Yep.
It's instead of playing up to the opponent's potential, you're kind of playing down. And
I think Blake Bortles is a cooler name, though. So that is, that's one upgrade.
Can we all point out, though, that he's calling Blake a cooler name than Peyton, and that's his kid's name?
That is interesting, isn't it? It's terrible. You can't call a girl Blake, though. You can call a girl Peyton, so I got to pass there.
No, and this is probably where I should probably stop talking, but I think the Jacksonville offense is going to be respectable. They're not going to be...
It's a young offense. It has
talent
potential.
at wide receiver, yeah.
But I think to what Rob was going to say, it's you can't pick from week to week who's going to score the touchdowns or whatever. You don't know if it's going to be Allen Robinson. You don't know if it's going to be Marquise Lee. You don't know if it's going to be Allen Hurns. You don't know if it's going to be T.J. Yeldon, Julius Thomas. You don't know.
Denard Robinson.
But out of all those names, I like Thomas as the most steady red zone option. And I think if Bortles is smart, he's going to be playing it safe in the red zone. He's going to be cutting down those picks and going for more touchdowns. And Thomas, you have a well-gifted athletic tight end waiting to catch.
The concerns with me about Thomas are, and yes, he's young, so he's not a 30-year-old we're talking about here, but who was he before Peyton Manning?
Sure. Very true.
But he was also 2 years into the league before that, so it's hard to say that. And you watch him, the physical tools are there. The guy's a freak of nature, outstanding athlete, huge guy. So that's the thing. Peyton Manning tends to make players a little bit better.
All right.
So we'll see.
Julius Thomas going right now after Martellus Bennett. Which one are you taking for me? It's Thomas.
Thomas. And it's the same thing with the Kelsey Olsen thing for me, the upside of it. He's a guy, Thomas is a guy who I think could be a number 1. Gronk clearly will be, I think, for me, but he's a guy that if he was, I wouldn't be
Right.
super surprised at the end of
Right.
the year.
And for tight end, we mentioned this in the quarterback podcast. It's a deep position. You should be drafting upside if you're not going one, because
Yeah.
the waiver wire will
I
have
agree.
some options
Absolutely.
there.
You know what? The narrative is I'm going to be the last guy in the draft to have a tight end, but all three of us are probably saying the same thing. We have the same draft together. I'm probably waiting until similar like the quarterback, whoever falls to me. There's a bunch of guys that I can't really decipher between.
Well, let's going to make the next question then really easy. I was going to ask you guys Jason Witten or Zach Ertz to the next two on this list, but it sounds like we're all going Ertz
Yes.
because there's more upside there. I wouldn't be surprised if Ertz finishes as the number one receiver for Philadelphia this year. I think there's...
I would be.
I don't know. You got Aguilar, you got Ertz,
Got Matthews.
I don't think any one of those guys is the clear-cut number one receiver.
Well, I don't think
Which one of those guys is going to lead the Eagles in targets?
Matthews.
And I think that
Jinx.
it's-
Oh, good. He can't talk for the rest of the...
That's what we got to do to shut him up.
It's not,
Got it.
and it's because it's not a tight end offense. You talk about talent, or it says all
Yeah.
the talent in the world, but it's a wide receiver driven offense. So, but with that said, I was high on Ertz last year. I'm high on him again this year. If he can stay healthy and stay out there and fight off Selleck, I hate.
They prefer tight ends to block, and there's a reason why Selleck hasn't been able to get taken off the field yet.
With all this upside at tight end, you don't want to draft a timeshare.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm steering clear. But with that said, I still like Ertz better.
Yeah. Because if it doesn't work out in 2 weeks, I'll go pick up Austin Safarian-Jenkins if he's there, or Kyle Rudolph, or whoever. I mean, there's so many guys.
Listen, Jason Witten
This
is
is going to be the worst
definitely-
podcast of the year.
Jason
Just
Witten.
put it out there right now. At least you're far enough in, you'll probably finish it at this point.
Jason Witten, very safe, obviously. I will say this, Gavin Escobar, his backup, or guy that plays a lot even with Witten in two tight end sets, did look very good last year. So I think that's a guy in future years for you dynasty leaguers. Gavin Escobar, I think, is gonna be good in a few years. Jordan Cameron, old face in a new place, going over to Miami. Didn't play much last season. What is your guys' expectations for Jordan Cameron?
Did he have a brain implant? Because if he didn't, him and his concussions, he'll be back.
You
trust
loved
me.
Cameron. I remember.
I
2
loved
years
him, but
ago
these concussions are a serious thing, and
Jordan Reed syndrome.
it gets worse every time you have one.
Is that how they work?
I don't see him.
I forget. I've had too
I don't
many.
see him playing. I don't see him playing many more years. And yeah, I loved him. Freak of nature, unbelievable athlete, but
Charles
he
Clay,
can't stay on the field. And
Charles-
the injuries. I mean, it's the concussions for me.
Charles Clay proved to me that the tight end can be very valuable in the Miami offense, and we talked about it in the quarterback podcast. There's a lot of weapons there for Ryan Tannehill. I like Jordan Cameron. I haven't owned him yet in any teams that I've drafted because it's just, like you said, if I'm not drafting Gronk or preferably Graham, or even maybe Julius Thomas if he falls right, I'm probably drafting one of the guys way later. So I haven't owned Cameron in a lot of leagues, but if he fell into the right spot, I would definitely snatch him up.
Agreed. And as we talk about the depth, you can draft. I agree that the injury is obviously a risk, but tight end's a position where you can afford to take that gamble.
Yep.
So for me, if I believe in Cameron's ability, and obviously he's in a better situation, it doesn't get much worse than Cleveland. I think this is his make or break, and if you believe in those off the field factors, like I typically do, I think he stays healthy, and I think he has a great year. I think he's a good value.
I'm not making light of it either or joking about it. It's terrible, the concussions he's had, and I actually, if he falls the right way for me, talk about upside.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more upside you get than him if he can stay on the field. So if it doesn't work out, if he gets in concussion week 2, there's plenty of guys to stream. So
Yeah.
I don't mind having him on your team.
So Dwayne Allen is next on this list.
Oh geez.
I know last year Dwayne Allen, Kobe Fleener, we've had a lot of discussions back and forth about those two. They have Kobe Fleener as the 13th tight end off the board. How close are these two guys for you guys?
Extremely close, Rob. I'll echo what you said earlier. I'm not going to take a timeshare guy
Yeah.
with the potential that falls at the tight end position.
But are these timeshare guys, these are guys that are getting a lot of work. Are they really timeshare guys? They play a lot of two tight end sets too.
And I like them both as tight ends. That's the thing that's frustrating. Is on different teams, I would say both of these guys are are draftable options. But on the same team, Allen. Do you think Allen's going to score touchdowns this year? At whose expense are those touchdowns? Fleener. Do you think Fleener is going to catch a lot of balls this year? At whose expense are those catches? Allen. So for me, it's together they're a great tight end with a great quarterback and a great system. But
if I could draft Indianapolis tight ends, I'd be excited.
I was going to say, would you ever draft both of them hoping one of them misses time?
Never.
I would never hope that someone gets hurt.
Never.
Just you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's.
But kind of like we've been saying this whole podcast, it's the depth of it, the upside of it all. I would rather take a shot at a guy like, I say it again, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Kyle Rudolph type that are alone and don't have to compete on their team.
Austin Seferian-Jenkins has Brandon Myers, and he also has Tim Wright back there now again.
Brandon Myers.
But the difference is, I think...
I'm not concerned with either of those two names.
We think ASJ is going to win that.
Wait, you're not concerned with Tim Wright? You loved Tim Wright last year on the Patriots.
Different, yeah?
Yeah. Different.
That was in New England. No. What I'm saying is, on the
Aaron Hernandez 2.0.
On the Patriots.
Right. Well, no, and the difference is we think someone's going to win that battle. I don't think any of those Colts tight ends is going to win the battle. I think it's going to continue.
It is a timeshare.
Absolutely.
And I think if you're sitting in the coaches, meetings and you ask them, who do you view as your receiving tight end? Who do you view as your blocking tight end? Fleener is the guy they want to send out routes, and they'd rather have Dwayne blocking more often. Now they're both very. I think Dwayne Allen is the better player.
I think Dwayne Allen's the red zone threat, and Fleener's the between the 20s guy.
Yeah,
pretty much. That's what we're looking at. That's how I see these two.
Yeah.
So, if you want a tight end that's going to be more consistent, you're taking Fleener. If you're looking for that upside, that big scoring week, you're taking Dwayne Allen. Yeah.
Yeah. I still think since Gronkowski and Graham, we've said the same thing about everybody.
Pretty much. Another pair of teammates, Antonio Gates, Ladarius Green. Gates obviously missing 4 games this season.
I feel like we're talking about kickers.
It seems like that sometimes.
Yeah, it's crazy. This position is just... It's funny that we're going through this, how much they're all the same.
Let's just throw this out there for a second. Is there the chance that Ladarius Green plays the first 4 games, plays awesome, and he all of a sudden sees 60-70% of the snaps, and Gates in his old age gets 30-40%.
No, I don't think so. They wouldn't do that to him. Yeah. No.
Not if Gates is healthy. But, and this is another one of those split scenarios where, we're talking about tight ends maybe being, ending this podcast after Gronk, but at the same time, there's such a differential between one and the rest that I see it almost as the opportunity for a break. Like if one of these guys breaks out and can bust.
But who is it going to be? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows, and that's the fun part of it. That's why I think it's a great position to talk about, a great position for fantasy, because it's a difference maker.
Yeah, if I had 10 tight end slots on my roster, I'd be excited.
Yeah.
But
so
it's like throwing darts.
If you had to pick one tight end, not named Gronk, not named Graham, Olsen, Kelsey, or Julius Thomas, who were you drafting? Because like you guys said, it's all a big grouping.
Yeah.
Which guy sticks out to you? For me, it's Zach Ertz. Going back to him again, but I just see him as the bigger chance to get more targets because Matthews isn't the clear-cut number 1. Aguilar isn't the clear-cut number 1. Riley Cooper, who cares?
And I might be jumping around a bit, but for me, if it's just at any round, it's Cameron. And if we're talking relative to value, it's ASJ or Eric Ebron.
Ebron, really? That's getting real deep.
And I know if you want to speed up this cast, let's just go all the way to the end here.
I like that name.
I think Ebron wins that battle this year, and I think value-wise, those two guys, ASJ and Ebron, although ASJ is starting to get a little hype. So between those two guys' value, I think I'm looking them later in drafts, but I'm looking, if I had a pick of anybody besides the ones you excluded, I'm picking Cameron.
So talking about Ebron, you're not worried at all that they're moving towards a more run-focused team. Because that's what I feel like they're kind of moving towards. Stafford, we've pointed out in the quarterback podcast, Stafford hasn't been Stafford the last 3 years. The most passing touchdowns, 29 over the last 3 years. 29, 22, 20. Not exactly great passing numbers. Joe Lombardi has moved on. They drafted a running back. You're not worried they're going to run the ball more.
They even if they run the ball more, they're so far on the passing end. Stafford's attempts the last 2-3 years have been absurd. I think, even if they do scale back a bit, I still think there's enough to go around in that offense. And we're talking about Joyce Bell and a rookie. Granted, I love that rookie, and I think he'll have a great year, but we're still talking about Joyce Bell and a rookie. So
Damn it, you love that rookie too.
So I think there's space.
I'm going to have to draft him earlier than I thought.
I think there's space there. And I think
one way to fill up a tight end podcast, talk about running backs.
Can I just echo everything he said? Because this is just, it's so, I really don't know.
And one thing about
he sounded good.
Listen, they can't see it, but you guys need to stop holding hands while you do this podcast, all right? It's getting a little weird.
A little earlier, but
getting a little weird.
And one mistake that
boys and girls.
What's that?
Tyler Eifert. It's Gresham's gone. Gresham's gone.
Gresham was the guy holding him back.
Yes. I just had an epiphany.
Another 2 words.
Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert.
Listen, I'm with you on Eifert. There's been reports out of camp that he's been uncoverable. That he is. I mean,
I'm
with you on Eifert for that reason. Please don't ever bring up the point that you like Eifert because Jermaine Gresham is gone.
Why?
That is just...
He has nobody to sap snaps from him anymore. It's going to be Eifert all day, every game.
Sure.
If he stays healthy.
But in fantasy, we're talking about targets, we're talking about receptions, we're talking about yards. And I think with Marvin Jones...
Being on the field more increases your chances of those things.
Sure. But I think with Marvin Jones coming back this year and Mohamed Sanu stepping up like he did last year, we're going to see a lot of targets going back to Marvin Jones, who's very good. Sanu proved to himself last year that he deserves the target.
Eifert sucks. And then don't even look at him.
Well, no, I told you I like Eifert, but to your point, we talked, I think, briefly, and it might have been the last podcast, about A.J. Green, how much you liked A.J. Green. So if you like Green, Sanu did as good as he did last year, and Marvin Jones is coming back. There's only so many mouths to feed, especially when you have 2 running backs like Giovanni Bernard and Jeremy Hill who are going to eat up carries, and to Bernard's point, receptions too.
But I like Matt's argument here. At least he's the guy.
It's like the Dwayne Allen we just talked about. You asked me, are you kind of hoping one of them misses some games, gets hurt? That's the scenario now. You don't have to worry.
That could happen with Green, Sanu,
when it comes to talent, ability, Eifert is in top 5, I'm going to say. Size, speed, all those things put together. Physical freak. It doesn't get much better than him. So now that he's not going to have to split time with a guy who's been a pretty good player in the league, Gresham was a good player. He's been a Pro Bowler. So now that he's gone, and it's his job only, that is a name right there. I'm saying it right now. That's a name to look at.
I'm recalling back to last year where I made the argument where you combine Gresham and Eifert and you had a certain tight end. And Marcus,
2 years ago, I don't remember.
You poo-pooed that argument. And for me, I think maybe I'm flip-flopping here, but I almost don't think that offense can produce a top tight end. So for me, I like Eifert as a player, but in terms of that offense and his situation, I like some of the later guys with more upside as I see it.
Listen, Safarian Jenkins, right? And then what was the other name?
Ebron.
I got Eifert over both.
I like Eifert over both of them as well. I can't believe right now he, according to Fantasy Pros, going as the number 21 tight end off the board after Jared Cook, after Charles Clay in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I mean, it just I don't get that.
Reading between the lines, you did that in the quarterback draft. We know what you do here on these podcasts. You don't let everyone know what you really think because you're worried about Rob and I and the drafts in the home league. I just realized I need to draft Tyler Eifert because Marcus loves him.
Not worried.
Did you notice the way his left eye was twitching when he was talking about him?
Yeah. Not worried about you two. Let's talk about some of these other tight ends though, just so this podcast doesn't run too long. Let's touch on some guys. We
could stop it right now. Trust me.
You don't want to talk about your boy Kyle Rudolph?
Yeah, we can
Kyle
talk
Rudolph
Kyle.
and Teddy Bridge?
There's Kyle. I've loved him. You gotta stay on the field. You know, it's hard for me. I like the upside, but the problem is I think there's a lot of weapons in Minnesota. Adrian back, Jerick McKinnon is a stud in the making. Obviously, they're bringing Wallace. Hopefully, Patterson has stepped his game up a little bit. Johnson had a really nice second half of the season. There's just two, and we're going to be a running team. There's no question. So I think listen to me. I'm part of the Minnesota organization. We're going to announce it tonight here on the podcast. I'm officially no. So that's the only thing that's kind of holding him back for me. He's going to be an outstanding red zone threat as he always has, but he's got to stay healthy, and he hasn't been able to do that.
I think
in college as well. So this isn't just.
I think it was Rob that pointed out earlier. Did you say you wouldn't carry two tight ends? Either of you, would you carry two tight ends? Let me show that out there.
Yes, because there's so many questions for me, and there's so many guys that you could take extremely late that have serious upside that I don't think they're a bad roster spot to keep two tight ends.
Yeah, I didn't say I wouldn't keep two tight ends. I just said it was a very deep position with a lot of upside late. So you could, if you make a mistake, there's a chance to
See, that's where I'm at. I'm okay with taking two of these late tight ends and seeing which one pops.
Yep.
I'm okay with taking a Kyle Rudolph and a Tyler Eifert and seeing which one pops. Or maybe both of them do. Or maybe they both don't, and then you go back to the waiver wire and you find an Eric Ebron.
This is this is the first good conversation of the podcast. I think this is the
thank God.
Yeah, this is a year I think where
hopefully everybody still listens.
Maybe just waiting and taking two of these high upside guys where before it's crazy to hold two tight ends. You know what I mean? But with the uncertainty of the position and the amount of guys that you can take late that could kind of snap, a backup tight end is actually probably as good or better than those scrub running backs you hope might hit because of injury.
Those running back threes on their own team.
Yeah.
Now you're taking two tight ends that at least one of them may pop.
If Eric Ebron lived up to his draft last year potential, you are pumped that you drafted him. Remember what happened to Rob Gronkowski? Nobody knew. And what did he do? Yeah. You know?
Nothing. He did nothing. Oh, wait, did he do something? All right, guys, I know we're running kind of long on this tight end podcast, so just one last guy I want to touch on. Josh Hill. He has been getting a crap ton of hype just because he's the new tight end for the Saints with Jimmy Graham gone. I'm not buying into it. I don't either. I don't see, just because he's playing that position doesn't mean he's going to have Jimmy Graham numbers. I just don't get that whole argument. Right now, the number 16 tight end off the board. We've already said we like Eifert better. I'd rather take a chance on Vernon Davis coming back.
I'd rather take Rudolph. I'd rather take Safarius Jenkins. I'd rather take Ebron.
Yeah, there's just so many other guys I would rather take than the next Saints tight end.
But Wiley, old veteran Ben Watson isn't going anyway.
That's what I was going to say. I'm not so guaranteed he's going to be the guy anyway. Ben Watson last season had more playing time than him. Maybe Ben Watson hangs around, or maybe just Breeze gets away from the tight end and throws more to Colston, throws more to the other guys. I don't know. I don't get the Josh Hill hype. I understand what some people are saying. He's the new Jimmy Graham. He's filling the spot, but I don't think that immediately means.
If anybody's saying he's the new Jimmy Graham, that person will be shot.
You know what I'm saying. He's got the measurables, blah, blah, blah. He's filling the spot. There's the Saints wouldn't have traded Jimmy Graham if they didn't like this kid.
Yeah, I think it's just more they're changing the philosophy slightly. Yeah. They want a more well-rounded tight end. Jimmy Graham was lacking in the blocking.
And the Hill hype's going, I feel like it's going down. It was huge right after the trade. I think it's somewhat coming back to reality. But I almost hope it stays so somebody else takes him and frees up another tight end.
A lot of weeks left, though. So
I just want to say real quick, too, just because I said this was going to be the last guy, but I actually have one more guy I just want to bring up real quick. Because
He's a liar.
That's what I do. I'm a liar, guys. Don't listen to anything I say.
Never trust you again, man.
Because this next guy is under a similar situation and being drafted even higher because of it. Owen Daniels, the number 11 tight end off the board, because he's the new Denver tight end. Are you buying into that?
Until he gets hurt.
And he's in a Gary Kubiak offense again.
Yeah.
Are you buying into him as...
I get it. I
mean, he's a tight end 1. He's 11th off the board.
Yep. Yes. While he's on the field, yes. I think he will be.
And it's strictly situation. It's strictly where he's where he's coming from to where he's going. I mean, he's got Peyton again. He as we talked about, if you believe in Peyton, I think you have to believe in the weapons. And I see Daniels as a piece of that worth owning. Is he exciting? No, I don't see him as, he's not these upside guys we're talking about, which is what I'm looking for. But he deserves to be owned. He deserves to be started in a standard league.
There is some upside, though. If he stays healthy, it's obviously a position that has excelled with Peyton Manning throughout his career.
Let's assume for a second he plays 13 games.
Yeah, I'd be pumped to have him.
Over or under 6 touchdowns for him in 13 games?
Over.
I would say over as well.
I'm right. I mean,
Give me
I
13
picked
games.
the over under.
Number, yeah.
I picked the over under for a reason. I think 6 is the number.
Yep.
I don't know.
You're good at the over under. You always make it hard.
That's
13 games, I would say over. Yeah.
But
the likelihood of that,
13 games and 6 touchdowns is what he is.
the likelihood of that, though, just I don't. But no problem with taking him because he gets hurt. You pick up one of these other guys we've talked about tonight. There's plenty of them that you're going to be able to stream.
And Daniel's right now going in about, looks like the 10th round, 11th, 12th round, somewhere in there, depending on your drafts.
Yeah.
Is that when you feel comfortable snatching him up? I mean, that's 2 rounds, round or 2 before you kick her in your defense, basically.
Yep. I guess based on your roster construction at that time, it wouldn't be a bad pick for me. So probably wouldn't make it because I have plenty of guys that I'm happy with much later. But
all right, well, that wraps it up for the Tight End podcast. Matt, for those keeping track at home, almost 35 minutes on tight ends.
Hey, we did work right there. That's solid. That's why you should be paying for the content on blindsidefootball.com because we can talk about fucking tight ends for 35 minutes.
All right, guys, we'll be back next week. Probably talk about running backs, wide receivers. What do you guys want to do? Want to do running backs next week, wide receivers?
Running backs sounds good.
Running backs? All right. We'll be back next week then, guys, talk about running backs. We'll do wide receivers the week after that, and then we'll start doing some, season's getting ready. Let's get a couple more podcasts in about non-positional things. So come back next week for running backs, and we'll see you guys then.